Welcome to the Cala Builders Podcast. Did you know that simply moving your kitchen sink, like 3 feet to the left, could actually cost you more than buying a brand new car?
I mean, it sounds completely ridiculous to say out loud.
It really does. But today, we are providing you with the ultimate shortcut to being, well, completely well-informed before you drop tens of thousands of dollars on a home renovation.
Right, because nobody wants to go in blind.
Exactly. We are diving deep into the exciting and, frankly, financially terrifying reality of executing a 2026 kitchen remodel right here in Los Angeles.
Yeah, it is a landscape that is just filled with hidden traps for the uninformed. So the mission today is to really cut through the massive amount of misinformation out there.
And to do that, we're analyzing a really comprehensive 2026 pricing guide for LA kitchen remodels. Plus, we're cross-referencing that data with the actual on-the-ground operational playbook of Cala Builders.
Which is key, because the goal here is to separate those rosy, generalized national remodeling myths from the hard, hyperlocal realities of building in LA.
Yeah, and just to ground this in reality, we're using Cala Builders data operating under license number 1156496, by the way, because they serve as this perfect case study of a full-service general contractor in Los Angeles.
Right. Their playbook covers high-end residential and commercial projects, everything from custom luxury homes and ADUs to retail build-outs.
And, of course, these massive kitchen overhauls we're talking about today.
Yeah.
But before you could even start sketching out an island or picking out drawer pulls, you have to confront the math of this specific city.
You really do.
Because if you look at national cost estimators online right now, they often quote this crazy range like $5,000 to $50,000 for a full kitchen remodel.
Which is just, I mean, it's a number that sets homeowners up for profound disappointment.
Oh, totally.
The data shows this massive disconnect between national averages and major metropolitan reality. Let's look at the actual 2026 Los Angeles numbers.
Lay it on me.
Okay, so if you are doing a purely cosmetic refresh, meaning you keep the exact same footprint, you do not touch a single pipe or wire, and you just update the counters and cabinet fronts, you're looking at $18,000 to $35,000.
Wow. So, I mean, looking up national remodeling costs online while living in LA is basically like looking at the price of a fast food burger and expecting to pay that at a 5-star steakhouse in Beverly Hills.
That is a perfect way to put it. It's a total fantasy.
But let's say I want to actually gut the space. Like I want new appliances, a brand new layout, maybe a huge island. What happens to the math then?
The jump is significant. I mean, very significant. If you move into a mid-range remodel where you are replacing everything within a similar footprint but upgrading the materials, you land between $40,000 and $95,000.
Okay, and for the big flashy ones.
Right. If you want to execute that very popular full open concept renovation where you're tearing down load-bearing walls, adding custom islands, rerouting utilities, the data shows that project easily clears the $100,000 mark.
I have to stop you there because the premium just seems staggering. I know California has a reputation for being expensive, but is this just arbitrary price gouging?
Oh, yeah.
Where is that extra 50 grand actually going?
It really comes down to two unyielding factors, labor and regulatory requirements.
Okay.
In Los Angeles, licensed contractor labor rates run between $85 and $175 per hour, and that isn't padding.
Right, they aren't just pocketing that.
Exactly. That hourly rate has to absorb the cost of strict state licensing, comprehensive liability, and workers' compensation insurance, plus the extreme local demand for specialized trades.
But the geographical data points to another fascinating variable, right? The specific neighborhood you live in dictates the budget just as much as those labor rates.
It absolutely does.
Okay, wait. How does the neighborhood change the physical cost of drywall and wood? Because the data shows a mid-range remodel in Beverly Hills can run $65,000 to over $150,000. But that same mid-range concept in San Fernando Valley areas like Woodland Hills, Encino, or Tarzana drops to between $40,000 and $85,000. Do the permit rules suddenly become cheaper when you drive north on the 405 freeway?
No, the city codes are exactly the same, but the market psychology is entirely different.
What do you mean?
Well, it comes down to buyer expectations and the baseline standard of the neighborhood. So if you own a $3 million home in a luxury zip code like Beverly Hills, and you install a basic stock cabinet kitchen, you will actively detract from the home's resale value.
Oh, wow. Because it just feels cheap for the area.
Exactly. The house itself basically demands fully custom woodwork, rare natural stone, and professional-grade appliances just to meet the neighborhood's baseline expectation.
Okay, that makes sense.
But in Woodland Hills or Tarzana, Buyers expect a highly functional, beautifully updated space, but the market just isn't demanding those extreme, top-tier luxury finishes to maintain the property value.
So the house is essentially holding you hostage to a certain level of finish. If you underbuild for the neighborhood, you lose money when you sell.
Yes, that's exactly what the data shows.
Okay, let's zoom in on where these massive budgets actually go.
Yeah.
Because when I walk into a kitchen, I see the stove, the fridge, maybe some cool lighting. But according to the breakdown in our sources, the absolute dictator of the budget is essentially just wooden boxes.
Cabinets.
Yeah, they are the dominant force in the budget. Without fail, cabinets will consistently consume 30% to 40% of your total budget.
Which seems wild for just boxes.
Well, the engineering required to build a box that can withstand decades of moisture, heat, and structural weight is surprisingly complex.
And the pricing tiers for these boxes vary wildly.
Right.
The data outlines 3 distinct levels, right?
Right.
You have stock cabinets, which are pre-manufactured in standard sizes, running $6,000 to $13,000. Then semi-custom, which offer more flexibility in sizing and finish, ranging from $13,000 to $27,000.
Yes, and then finally, fully custom. Built from scratch to fit the exact millimeter of your space, starting at $27,000 and easily blowing past $55,000.
Oh, easily.
But let me challenge the core logic here. Let's say you have a tiny 100 square foot galley kitchen.
Right.
And I have a massive 250 square foot kitchen.
Okay, tracking.
If you decide to move your sink to the window, could you actually end up paying more than me, even though my kitchen is 2.5 times larger, if I just keep my layout exactly the same?
You absolutely would pay more. And this is actually where homeowners make their biggest financial miscalculation.
Really?
Yeah. People assume raw square footage is the primary driver of cost. It is not. The true currency of remodeling is linear feet and utility routing.
Utility routing. Okay.
Yeah. If you have a massive kitchen, but you simply swap old cabinets for new ones in the exact same spot, you are just paying for surface-level cosmetic changes. But the moment I decide to move the sink in my tiny galley kitchen...
You trigger a chain reaction.
Exactly. I trigger a structural chain reaction.
It's like the tyranny of the footprint.
That's a great way to put it, honestly. Moving a sink isn't just sliding a basin across a room. A licensed plumber must open up the walls to route entirely new hot and cold water supply lines, establish a new drainage slope, and potentially even vent the new pipe all the way through the roof.
Oh, geez.
And it gets worse. If you add a freestanding kitchen island with a prep sink or a microwave drawer, the contractor often has to literally jackhammer open the concrete slab foundation underneath your house.
Wait, really? Jackhammer the foundation?
Yes. They have to dig a trench, run the new utilities, and then re-pour the concrete. You are paying heavily for the invisible, grueling labor beneath the floorboards.
Which brings us to, I think, the most fascinating domino effect in this entire playbook. The appliance package trap.
Oh, yes. This is a big one.
Because if moving a sink requires jackhammering concrete, what happens when we start messing with the heavy machinery? Let's say I'm in a showroom. I see this gorgeous commercial-style range with the shiny red knobs, 6 burners, and a griddle.
Everyone loves the red knobs.
I decide I'm going to splurge. But simply dropping that stove into my kitchen isn't just a matter of plugging it in, is it?
Not even close. When you select a professional grade range, you have to analyze what that machine requires to function safely.
Okay, what does it need?
A commercial-style range has a massive BTU, or British Thermal Unit, heat output. Your existing half-inch gas line from the 1980s cannot physically feed it enough fuel.
Oh no, so you need more gas.
Right. So a plumber must be hired to run a brand new, larger diameter gas line all the way from your meter, through the house, to the kitchen.
And obviously, if you're producing that much more heat and smoke, you can't just use a standard microwave vent hood anymore.
No, the code strictly prohibits it. You are now required to install a high-capacity ventilation hood to clear the grease and carbon monoxide.
Just means more holes in the house.
Exactly. That commercial hood often requires a wider exhaust duct to be cut straight through your ceiling and roof. Furthermore, these high-end ranges and heavy-duty hoods require dedicated electrical circuits. Yeah, if you live in an older Los Angeles home, your main electrical panel might only be 100 amps, and it's probably already maxed out.
Let me guess. Now the electrician gets involved.
Yes. Buying that single commercial stove has now triggered a mandatory full electrical panel upgrade for the entire house to 200 amps.
Just for a stove.
Just for the stove. And that requires trenching, pulling new wires, and coordinating with the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power.
So buying a commercial-style range is basically like adopting a Great Dane.
Huh. I love that.
Right. Like, you don't just buy the dog.
Yeah.
You suddenly realize you have to buy a bigger car to drive it around, build a higher fence so it doesn't jump over, and eventually you have to buy a bigger house just to fit it in the living room.
That is so accurate. The mechanical ecosystem of a home is deeply intertwined. You are never just changing one thing.
Right.
And anytime you alter that ecosystem, anytime you touch plumbing, electrical, gas, or structural framing, you are legally inviting the city of Los Angeles into your home.
Let's talk about the city, because the permit process seems like the ultimate bottleneck here.
It really can be.
The data says these permits run anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000, depending on the scope of the work. But it's not just the fees, it's the sheer bureaucracy of time, right?
Time is often the most expensive variable. In LA, plan checks at the Department of Building and Safety take 2 to 4 weeks at an absolute minimum before you can even swing a hammer.
2 to 4 weeks of just waiting.
At a minimum. But it gets substantially more complicated if you want that open concept look we mentioned earlier.
Taking down walls.
Right. If you want to remove a wall between your kitchen and living room, the state of California requires rigorous seismic load calculations.
Wait, okay, I get why we care about earthquakes. So how does taking out a kitchen wall affect an earthquake?
Well, many interior walls are actually shear walls. They are structurally designed to prevent the house from twisting or collapsing sideways when the ground shakes violently.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah, so if you remove that wall, the building loses its resistance to lateral force. Therefore, a licensed structural engineer must be hired to calculate exactly how to redistribute that force.
And what do they usually tell you to do?
They usually dictate that the contractor must install massive, heavy steel beams hidden in the ceiling, tied directly down into the foundation to compensate for the missing wall.
Wow.
It adds weeks to the timeline and thousands to the budget.
Which perfectly sets up this terrifying concept in our sources, the contingency budget.
Oh, the dreaded contingency.
Right. Because when you start opening up walls in an older Los Angeles home, you aren't just doing construction, you are playing historical roulette.
Very true.
You might find beautiful vintage Douglas fir framing, or you might find ancient knob and tube electrical wiring, severe termite damage, dry rot from a roof leak in 1994, or like a family of raccoons living in the attic.
I've seen it all.
The playbook stresses a mandatory 15% to 20% contingency budget just for these hidden conditions.
Yes, and I cannot stress this enough. A contingency budget is the only thing standing between a finished kitchen and a completely halted construction site.
Because you can't just ignore it once you find it.
Exactly. You cannot assume previous homeowners, or even the original builders 50 years ago, followed the rules. You will find surprises behind the drywall.
It's guaranteed.
It is. That 20% isn't extra money to spend on nicer tile at the end of the project. It is a critical safety net for the inevitable moment a contractor uncovers something that must be legally brought up to modern code.
Okay, if you're sitting in your 100-square-foot galley kitchen right now listening to this, you are probably feeling pretty overwhelmed.
I wouldn't blame you.
We've outlined the nightmare of linear feet, the domino effect of a single appliance, the bureaucracy of permits, and the terror of hidden rot. Why would anyone subject themselves to this?
Well, there is a way through it.
Exactly. How do you actually get through this without draining your savings and losing your sanity? The sources point heavily to how you contract the work. So we need to talk about quotes. Specifically, the danger of the allowance-based quote.
Yes, this is perhaps the most critical financial insight in the entire playbook. When homeowners solicit bids from traditional contractors, they often receive an allowance-based quote.
What does that actually mean?
So the contractor will outline the labor, but for materials like cabinets, countertops, or tile, they insert a low placeholder number and allowance.
So they might put down like $4,000 for the cabinet allowance.
Yeah.
Which makes their total bottom line bid look incredibly cheap compared to other contractors.
Right, and you sign the contract thinking you're getting an amazing deal.
But that's like agreeing to buy a car for a great price, only to find out the steering wheel, the tires, and the seats were just allowances, and the real ones cost 10 times more.
The mechanism of the trap is brutal. Once you are under contract and construction begins, you go to the showroom to select your cabinets.
And what happens?
You quickly realize that $4,000 barely covers the plywood boxes, let alone the doors, the hardware, or the finish. Your actual cabinet cost is, say, $20,000.
Ouch.
Because you are already under contract, the contractor simply issues a change order for the $16,000 difference. Yeah. The initial low bid was just a legal mirage.
So how do you avoid falling into that trap?
The data dictates you must demand a scope-based quote.
Scope-based.
Yes, a scope-based quote does not use placeholders. The contractor does the grueling work up front, calculating the exact cost of the specific materials you have actually chosen and the precise labor hours required.
So it's based on reality?
Exactly. The final number is based on reality, which protects the homeowner from change order fatigue.
And this brings us to the operational case study of Cala Builders, because their model is fundamentally structured around scope-based reality. They operate as a design-build firm. And this isn't just some marketing term. It's a specific operational structure where the architectural planning, the 3D rendering, the city permitting, and the physical construction are all executed by a single company under one roof.
Which is very different from the norm. The traditional construction model is highly siloed.
How so?
Well, you hire an independent architect, an independent interior designer, and then a general contractor who subcontracts out to independent plumbers and electricians. But when you analyze a design-build firm like Cala Builders, you see the efficiency of integration.
Let's look at their roster to see what that means. You have Mady, the owner, with over 30 years of LA construction experience. Shaheen is the lead project manager orchestrating the site. Argavan is the senior lead designer, translating aesthetic desires into code-compliant plans.
Right, all in-house.
But crucially, they have in-house licensed tradesmen, right?
Yeah.
Like Aliyah the electrician and Mehrdad the plumber. But let me play devil's advocate here for a second. Surely I could just act as my own general contractor. I could hire a freelance designer for cheap, find a guy to do the plumbing, manage the schedule myself, and save a massive management fee, right?
While mathematically possible in a spreadsheet, the historical data of homeowner-managed projects shows it almost always ends in disaster and higher overall costs.
Really? Why is that?
The primary reason is human nature. When you piecemeal a project to separate entities, you inevitably enter the finger-pointing phase of construction.
Oh, the moment where everyone blames everyone else?
Precisely. Let's look at a concrete hypothetical. The independent freelance designer draws a beautiful vaulted ceiling with a recessed vent hood. The framer builds it exactly as drawn.
Sounds good so far.
Then the independent plumber arrives and says the main water line has to run right through the exact space where the vent duct is supposed to go. Then the electrician says the plumber's pipes are blocking his conduit.
Oh, man.
Who pays to fix it? The plumber blames the designer blames the framer. Construction completely stops.
And because you are acting as the general contractor.
You are the one writing the check to tear it down and start over.
That sounds like an absolute nightmare.
It is. The design-build model acts as an operational safeguard against that friction. Because the designer, the framer, the plumber, and the electrician all work for the same company, they consult with each other before the architectural plans are even finalized.
Oh, so they catch it early.
Yes. The plumber flags the ducting issue on paper in the office before a single hammer is swung.
That is brilliant.
This integration is why firms like this can realistically execute a standard remodel in a tight timeline of 8 to 16 weeks across their entire service footprint.
And that footprint covers all of LA County, right?
Yeah.
From Pasadena and Glendale all the way to Santa Monica, Calabasas, and Chatsworth.
Right. The company is universally accountable for the final result, which eliminates the finger-pointing entirely.
Which means the budget you agree to in the scope-based quote is the budget you actually pay. Okay, let's tie all of these threads together. Yes, the math is incredibly daunting. Moving walls and rerouting gas lines in Los Angeles is a major financial, logistical, and emotional undertaking.
It is not for the faint of heart.
No. But the return on investment of a well-executed kitchen remodel is profound. It recoups a massive share of its cost at resale, simply because buyers judge a home's value primarily by the quality of its kitchen.
It's the heart of the home.
And more importantly, it radically alters how you interact with your own home every single day. If you want to test this design-build model for yourself and get a real scope-based quote, the data from our sources suggests reaching out directly.
Which is definitely the safest route.
Yeah, you can email the team we've been profiling at info@calabuilders.com or give them a call to start the process based in reality, not allowances.
You know, we've spent this entire deep dive dissecting the heavy financial costs. The literal price of breaking open foundations, rerouting utilities, upgrading electrical panels, and navigating the sheer bureaucracy of city permits.
It's a lot to take in.
It is. But I think it is vital to leave you with a different kind of calculation. As our homes increasingly evolve to become our hybrid offices, our children's schools, and our primary centers for entertainment and gathering,
Yeah.
what is the hidden, compounding, long-term cost of not adapting your space to the way you actually live today?
Wow. That is the ultimate question to weigh against the budget. It all comes back to recognizing that a house is a complex, living ecosystem.
Yeah.
You can't just change one part without understanding how it affects the whole, and honestly, you need a highly integrated team to help you read that murky landscape.
Absolutely.
Take the time to understand the math, avoid those allowance traps, and don't let the initial sticker shock keep you from building the highly functional space your daily life deserves. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time.